All right, so I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is it's the Christmas special. The bad news is I could not find any Captain Crunch Christmas Crunch this year. All right, so it's time for this year's Christmas special. I hate calling it the annual Christmas special because it's only the second one we've ever done. And I feel like if you want to start calling something annual, you have to kind of set a precedent of doing it every year for a certain number of years. So like when somebody says, oh, it's the first annual something, like, no, it's not. It's just the first something. So it's about 3:30 in the afternoon here. So the sun's going down. So like right now, I feel like it's a little bit too bright in here as far as the mood lighting goes. I have the Christmas lights strung up. You see, I built us a fire here. You know, as the video wears on, it'll get a little bit darker. This is going to be a very long video, so I don't have any concerns about it getting to a better lighting level in here. So, you know, I was trying to think about what I wanted to talk about this year, because, you know, at first I kind of felt like, you know, last year I talked about the 3 memorable Christmases, right? Like my 3 most favorite Christmases from when I was a kid. And the third Christmas that I talked about was the Christmas of 1992. And the more I thought about it, there's not very many Christmases that I even really remember, like have specific memories of after that one. Just because we didn't really celebrate Christmas that much, even when I was in high school. And then I would say, especially like once I graduated and my grandma passed away, Christmas just was not a big deal around the house. And so in order for me to have something that sort of like triggers my memory as far as Christmas goes, there has to have been something like outside of my own family or something that created that memory. And so I kind of had 2 I was going to talk about a little bit here at the beginning of the show. As I said in another video, I have an insane amount of packages to go through here. So like I said, this is going to be like Classic Gaming Quarterly Christmas morning. So that's going to be the sort of the bulk of this episode. But so to start things off, the first kind of Christmas I thought about, you know, the more I thought about it, the more I kind of felt like that would kind of give me other things to talk about. In 1996, I got a job working at the gift shop at our local zoo. You know, like, you know, you go to the zoo, there's a gift shop and they have like stuffed animals and zoo books and rubber snakes and like whatever. And, you know, I'd quit working at Radio Shack like right after Christmas in 1995. So I guess I do remember the Christmas in 1995, just as I worked at Radio Shack, and that was pretty crazy. But that's the only thing I could tell you about that Christmas. And then I left Radio Shack in like January, and it took me a couple months to find a job. I mean, I was still living at home, you know, with my mom, and my grandma was still alive at that time. And I started going to school in January to local community college. And eventually I found this job working at this zoo gift shop. And the subsequent Christmas season, so the Christmas of 96, like the people that ran the gift shop decided that they wanted to like have a temporary like zoo Christmas store at the local mall. And basically any of us that already worked in the gift shop at the zoo were going to get like extra hours working at the mall. Because obviously if you worked at the zoo, I mean, the zoo closes at like, what, 5? And so none of us would work later than that. So this actually kind of gave us an opportunity to get more hours because we could go work in the evenings at the mall. Which was pretty cool because, and this is something I don't think we talked about last year, was kind of like Christmas at the mall. And, you know, I've probably complained about this on the show before, that, you know, malls just are a far cry from what they used to be when I was growing up. I mean, that was maybe next to going to like Toys R Us, going to the mall was like my favorite place to go, like locally. Obviously, you know, you go to Disneyland or something, that's better. But, you know, anytime you could go to the mall, like that was cool. You know, once you got old enough to go by yourself, you know, you'd ride your bike to the mall, or, you know, in high school, it was a common place to go hang out, was at the mall. But, you know, when I think about being a little kid, you know, one of my probably earliest memories of Christmas as a little kid was going to the mall and, you know, going and visiting the mall Santa, right? You'd wait in that line so you could go tell mall Santa that, what you wanted for Christmas. And I really can't remember, if at any time I believed that was Santa. I don't really even have a memory of ever believing in Santa. But, I don't know if it's like, what is the movie The Christmas Story, right? Isn't that? Unless I'm confusing. No, I'm thinking of Home Alone. Remember, Kevin goes to visit Santa, and he says like, oh yeah, I know you're not Santa, but you talk to him or whatever. So I don't know if I ever thought that like the mall Santa was like one of actual Santa's employees. I don't know, but I do remember like my grandma or my mom would take me down to the mall, and you'd wait in that line so you could go sit on Santa's lap, and you'd tell them what you wanted, but then they would take your picture. Like an elf would come out with like a Polaroid and take your picture, and then they would put it in that like paper sleeve and or folder, and give it to your parents or whatever. You probably paid like $2 for it or something. And I don't know. I could swear I still have one of those pictures around here somewhere. I don't know what happened to the rest of them. Unfortunately, Polaroids just don't last forever. Like a normal photograph, as long as you take care of it, will last. But it seems like Polaroids kind of fall apart a little bit. So. But just in general, going to the mall when you were a kid during Christmas, it was like this Christmas sensory overload. Because the people that ran the mall would go all out. There was like 9 million Christmas trees in there, and there was lights strung everywhere, and of course there was Christmas music blasting over the PA system. And like probably even to this day, maybe one of the few things that could really get me in the Christmas spirit is going to the mall, only because they do all that stuff. Now, at my age, I couldn't even tell you the last time I went to the mall. Usually I think at Christmas, I'll kind of tell my wife like, hey, we should go to the mall one day, just for sort of that infusion of Christmas spirit. But we never do. It's kind of a long drive from here to get to the mall. And it's not like I'm going to buy anything. Like there's really, I think the one store at this point that I would be interested in going into at our local mall would be like the Lego store. I mean, there's an Apple store, but even the Lego store, like you can buy all that stuff online now. Like the days of like going to Radio Shack and going to KB Toys and going to Walden Books, hitting up the video arcade, having something to eat at the food court. I mean, that's all really over now, which is sad. But growing up, just going to the mall at Christmas is like this constant, even as a young adult. Like obviously in 96, I got to work there, which was just neat because then, I would take breaks and I'd go walk around the mall and whatnot. And that was pretty cool. But even just going there, I just remember like, going there as maybe a young adult and going and, buying a gift at like Macy's or something for some girl that I was either going out with or was, hoping to get her to go out with me. And yeah, so in 96, one of the other things that I remember that kind of connects it to the other Christmas that I'll talk about is, so sometime in 1996, my friend Chris and I went to go see the band Tool. Tool. They were on tour. This is when that Anima album came out, and so that was like I would say that was kind of their first really big album. Like they had that song Sober on the previous album that was a hit, but I think that Anima was like, that one really like took them to a whole nother level as far as popularity goes. But so we went and saw them at like this old theater where they were playing. And Chris had paid for the tickets. Like he went and got the tickets, and then I remember I tried to like pay him back, like, hey man, I owe you for my ticket. And he was just like, oh, don't worry about it. He's like, you buy the next one or something. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I found out, sometime maybe in late summer or early fall of 96, that Metallica was going to be coming to town because I think that album Load had just come out, which, whatever. And so, I wanted to go see him. This was going to be the second time that I saw him. I think I've only seen Metallica twice, and that was the second time. But so when it got announced on the radio that, oh yeah, they're coming, and then tickets are going to be on sale on whatever day, I figured, well, I'll go get tickets, and then that's how I pay Chris back, and then that way we can go see Metallica together. And I don't know how many of you guys remember that store, The Warehouse. Like, I don't really even know like how widespread The Warehouse was. I know for sure they had them in LA and they had them where I live, which is like in Central California. But, it was like a place that sold like primarily music, but also movies. And then later they started selling video games. But you would go to a place like that to buy tickets for shows, right? Because this is before you were buying tickets on the internet. So you could probably call Ticketmaster on the phone if you had a credit card, but I don't believe I had a credit card at this time. I would have been 19. And, well, I know I had a Sears card, which we'll talk about that in another episode. But unless you had a credit card, you had to go to a physical location to buy stuff. And obviously I could have gone to the ticket box at the arena, but that was like far. So I just went to the warehouse and I bought these 2 tickets, and then Chris came over and I like surprised him, and that was pretty neat. But the show was like, I don't remember the date. I could have looked it up, but it really doesn't matter. But it was like right before Christmas. And so like I remember that I was working at the store, you know, in the mall, the zoo store, and Chris came and picked me up so that we could go to the show. Which, now that I think about it, you know, I'm sure I probably wore like a Metallica t-shirt to the show, I would think, but I couldn't have worn that on the job. So I don't know if I like ran into the bathroom and changed, or, you know, I don't know if I was hip yet to this whole idea that you don't wear the shirt of the band that you're going to see. You know, supposedly that's like not cool to do. I don't really have any like music shirts anymore anyway, so I'm covered if I go to any kind of show. But we went and we saw Metallica, and it was cool. You know, they mostly played, you know, their older catalog that I like more. I mean, they played sort of the hits off of Load, but other than that, it was like older songs. But like, I just remember, like, you know, Chris wasn't really the biggest Metallica fan. He loved Tool. But, you know, I got into Metallica when I was in high school, and you know, was into them, I would say, through the 90s, and then I kind of lost interest. But so I was the much bigger Metallica fan. And so, like, you know, I'm like, in every song that comes on, I like know the song, you know, like Master Puppets come on, and I'm like, oh, you know, like going all crazy. And I just remember like every single song, like, I love Chris. He was a nice guy, but he didn't know the band as well. And so every single song that would start, he would like tap on my shoulder, and then obviously it's loud, so he's like screaming in my ear, like, what song is this? And I was like yelling out, you know, it's Master of Puppet. But it's like, what's the difference? You don't know the song. Like, I could have made up anything, you know, like, oh, it's Children of the Corn or whatever, and he wouldn't have known the difference. But but I mentioned that this kind of connected to the other Christmas I was going to mention. And so sometime last year, I made this like a CD mixtape for my car. You know, I mentioned when I did that, I think it was in the midlife crisis episode. I mentioned that I was buying up CDs and whatnot for my car, just because my car has a CD player, but I can't plug my phone into the stereo in the car because my car is like just barely old enough that it doesn't have that. And for reasons that don't matter, I can't really easily upgrade the stereo system in my car. So, but I don't mind, because I make, you know, I buy CDs, or I make like these, like, you know, CD based mixtapes. And I have this CD with all of this late 90s rock on it. Because at least in my opinion, like late 90s and into the very early 2000s was really the last time that there was like decent mainstream rock like on the radio. Like, I know someone's going to chime in and say, oh, there's all these great indie bands now. And I'm sure there are, but, you know, if you go back 20 years, there were like multiple rock stations on the radio playing all this, you know, radio friendly rock music that, you know, at the time, a lot of it, you know, because I was sort of you know, I at least thought I was kind of a metalhead. And so like, it wasn't cool to listen to like this radio friendly music, but I didn't care. I like that stuff anyway. And it's music that I kind of get nostalgic listening to now, just because this was when I was in like my early 20s, which, you know, I mean, who doesn't want to go back to their early 20s unless you had a horrible experience in your early 20s? But, you know, speaking of that, it's like, you know, one of the things, I look back at my early 20s and I get so nostalgic. Like, that's why I have my whole collection of PlayStation games that was from that time, like the late 90s. And it was one of those times where, like, at the time, I really felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders, when nothing could have been further from the truth. You know, like, to me, it was just like, you know, I was going to community college, you know, maybe even part-time some of the time, and like working just a retail job that I didn't see as like being my future, and still living with my mom, right? And so you're kind of wondering like where's my life going? Like, didn't have a girlfriend. For me, you know, I went on some dates here and there, but did not have a steady girlfriend for a pretty long stretch of time. And so you really just kind of, you know, I would just say I wasn't maybe generally the happiest person. Not like I was an angry guy, but just, you know, I kind of felt like I don't really know what I'm doing. And so that's always sort of a stressor. And, you know, but you look back on it now, and like, my life has turned out certainly better than I ever thought it could have. And so it's almost like I wish I had known that at the time, because then I would have been happier. I could have relaxed. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But, you know, so I have all this music that I will listen to from time to time now that I kind of get, you know, it makes me feel nostalgic for the late 90s. But the CD, and this is only my second Christmas, obviously, listening to the CD, but it's like it's become my Christmas CD. So, and I'll tell you why. And it's not like this is an awesome story, but I mean, you guys seem to like my stories anyway. So in like 1998, I started hanging out. I think it was 98. I started hanging out with this guy, David, or just Dave. And I was going to City College, and the guy who was like my best friend at the time moved. Like, he moved away, which is kind of a constant theme, I feel like, on my show. It was this guy named Fabian, and I mentioned him by name because Fabian's the only friend I really have from back then, who I still talk to and who watches the show. So, hey, Fabian. Anyway, he moved away. He moved down to LA, and so he was kind of gone. And so, you know, I've mentioned before, I was always kind of a one friend guy. So once Fabian left, I kind of didn't really have a friend anymore. So, but there was this guy, David, who I took biology with him at the City College, and he kind of knew who I was just because, like, I had the highest grade in the class, like the whole time of taking that class, which sounds like maybe I'm bragging, but it was actually, that was very out of character for me. Like, I was not a good student because I was just like a lazy student. But for some reason, I liked this class, and I got into this weird competitive thing with this chick that sat next to me in the class. And so I would study my butt off because I had to beat her. And like, if I hadn't had the highest grade in the class, she would have. But it was kind of like, you know, for whatever reason, it was a small class, and so everybody knew that, like, you know, whatever, that I was the one that was getting the best grades. And so like one time, I think maybe it was even a different class, like the next semester, you know, I got to class, but maybe the instructor wasn't there yet, so the door was locked, and this guy David was standing out there. And so he just like struck up a conversation with me. Like, David's like one of these guys who can just have a conversation with like anybody. Like, he's just this most like laid back. I mean, I don't talk to him anymore, but I mean, not for a bad reason, just because I moved away and we just sort of grew apart. But you know, he could have a conversation with anybody, and he was just like super laid back and just a really chill guy. And so he started up this conversation with me, and we just kind of like became friends. And he was like 7 or 8 years older than me. So this would, in like 98, let's just say for the sake of argument, it was in 98. So I would have been 21. And he was maybe like in his very late 20s, like maybe like 29. And like, he was married and had a kid and like owned his own house and had a real job. Like, so he was he was a nurse, but he was an LVN. So there's like, you know, if you're in like the healthcare industry, like, there's like this whole hierarchy of like, you know, there's licensed vocational nurses, and then there's registered nurses who actually have like bachelor's degrees. And then you have like nurse practitioners and whatever. But so like an LVN is like the lowest level, as far as I know, of nurse. And so they get paid the least. And so David was trying to go through school and get a bachelor's degree in, I guess, in nursing, so that he could be a registered nurse and make more money. So that's why he was there, I'm saying, even though this was a guy that, you know, I mean, he was making pretty good money and had his life together. But, you know, we started hanging out, and like, I'm not going to say the only thing we did was drink, but we did like a lot of drinking. Like, I think David was the kind of guy who maybe got married at a really young age and maybe shouldn't have, you know, maybe he never got a chance to kind of like cut loose. And so like one of the main things we used to do is go down to the same bar, and we would just both get just not like, you know, blackout drunk, but we'd go down there and have like quite a few beers. And that was something we did like a lot, which was awkward because then I would go hang out at his house sometimes, and like his wife like hated my guts. But it's funny because I think this happens a lot like in life, where what she hated wasn't me, it was what her husband turned into when I was around. And for some reason, I feel like I can come up with a lot of examples of that in my life. Like, even I have a neighbor who literally lives across the street from me, who I can't talk to them anymore because me and him got a little bit chummy, and his wife hated me because, like, you know, I was like a bad influence, which I don't, you know, I don't really understand that, but really it was like she didn't like what her husband was turning into, because I would tell him like, you've only got one life to live, and you should do whatever makes you happy, but they don't want to hear that, right? So yeah, I'd go hang out at his house, and his wife would always, but he was sort of like the man of the house, whatever that means. So it's not like she could tell him, hey, he can't come over anymore. But I would just always kind of get like the side eye from her when I would come over, and I felt like real uncomfortable. But like another thing that I did with David, so I've mentioned a lot of times, like I had this computer that we've talked about through several episodes of Flashback. And like in like 98, I still had that computer. So like that computer, now mind you, it might have undergone some very subtle upgrades. Although I don't think so. We have 2 more upgrades to talk about for that computer, but then like that's it. So like in 1998, I was still using a 386, with whatever goes along with that, with no CD drive, mind you. Because by that time I went through sort of this period where I wasn't really into playing video games anymore. And what got me back into playing games was a PlayStation. And so I didn't really have any kind of need, or I didn't feel like I had any kind of need to upgrade my computer. So I didn't. But I went over to David's house, and David had, a pretty new computer that I guess he had built, or his friend helped him build. And like he had Windows 98 running on it. And like I had never even gotten to play much around with like Windows 95, because my computer was still running like DOS and like Windows 3.1. So I was like messing around with his computer, and he was like, showing me, he was like downloading MP3s, and like he had Winamp. Like that was the first time I ever saw Winamp. And that was kind of what made me think like I want to get like a newer computer. I think the whole MP3 thing was one of the main reasons I wanted to upgrade my computer. And so like David helped me do that. I don't know how many of you guys remember, because this was certainly not unique to my area. They would have these things called like computer shows, like maybe at the local fairgrounds. Like there was this commercial, and it was a totally generic commercial, because they would play the same commercial like all over I can't say the country, but I know I saw it in different areas where it was like, this Sunday, the computer show and sale, one day only, name brand parts at discount prices, etc., etc. And then at the very end, there would be like a totally different voice saying, this Sunday at Cal Expo, building number 3, 8 to 5 or whatever, because they were playing the same commercial in other places and having somebody else do the little thing at the end, like the specifics. But so the first time I ever went to one of these was with David, and like he helped me buy like, I had to buy like, I basically bought all the parts to like build a computer, but then like David wasn't even the one that knew how to build computers either. By this time I was pretty computer illiterate, because it had been, 5, 6, 7 years since I'd done that kind of stuff. But he didn't know how to do that kind of stuff either. He had some other friend who knew how to do it. And so either I bought all this stuff and we took it to that guy's house, or that guy might have even come with us. And but the computer got built at this other guy's house. And he was the kind of guy, this other guy, who would just build a computer. Like that was the fun of it, was building a computer and seeing how fast of a computer you could build. Like he had, I don't even know what he did for a living. Let's just say it was IT. I have no idea. But, he had like AutoCAD installed on his computer. What is that, like automated computer assisted drafting or something? If that's not exactly what it stands for, it's something like that. And I remember that he had that installed on his computer, even though he didn't do that kind of stuff, just because he would have it like render like a 3D model of a sports car and see how long it would take the computer to render it. And then like he would try to upgrade the computer in different ways just to make it faster. So it was like, I guess like that was the end of its own means or something. Does that even make sense? I don't know. Because I don't think he was even super into gaming. But anyway, so he helped me build that computer, and then I had that computer for a few years. But what does this all have to do with Christmas? Nothing. So David had a sister whose name I cannot remember right now. And she had some kind of office job. That's really all I can say. Like, she worked at a property management company, or she worked at an accounting office. I don't know. But she worked at some kind of company in an office where they had like a lot of clients around the city. And I guess like every year they would give out poinsettias to all of their clients, like the holiday house plant, poinsettia. And God, what was her name? I can't remember, but she needed help distributing these poinsettias, like to all. You had to drive around to all these different businesses and drop off these poinsettias. So like she asked David to help her, like, hey, can you take a carload of these around, you know? And David drove an SUV. He had an Isuzu Trooper, which, I mean, when's the last time they made the Isuzu Trooper? But so you can get a lot of poinsettias in the back of an Isuzu Trooper. And so that's what he had to do on one of his days off. Like I said, he was a nurse, so he only worked like maybe 3 days a week because you work 12-hour shifts. And so he could basically spend an entire day dropping off these poinsettias. And you know how it is, like, you know, maybe especially back then, and especially with a guy my age, where it's kind of a given that I had nothing better to do. Like, he called me up on the phone and was just, you know, like, hey man, like, I gotta do this, whatever. Like, you want to just like come hang out, you know? Like, basically I would just come, like, just ride shotgun with him while he was driving all around town. And we would just drop off these poinsettias. Like, we had like a clipboard with all these addresses on it, and, you know, tried to do them in some kind of logical order, because this is before, like, I don't know if GPSs existed yet, but we didn't have one, and it was certainly before smartphones. But, you know, and I remember it was pretty late in the season. You know, it seemed like too late to be dropping off poinsettias, and it was a real cold day, like cold for where we lived anyway. I know anytime I try to say that it's cold where I live, I get somebody from like the Midwest being like, cold? What do you know about cold? But, well, it's cold for us. It's all relative, right? And it was like cold and hazy and overcast the entire day. And I was just riding shotgun with them, and we just had like one of the local rock stations on. And I remember this was like right after the Metallica S&M album came out. And I think the only, at least that I remember, the only song that I think got released as a single, at least that was popular from that album, was that song No Leaf Clover, which was, at least in my opinion, probably Metallica's last good song. But I mean, that song got like crazy airplay, because that was like a new song for that album. Other than that, it was like Metallica playing their back catalog with like the San Francisco Philharmonic or something like that. But I mean, we must have heard that song on the radio like 10 times. And so to this day, when I hear that song, it just takes me back to that day in 1999. And so that song is on that CD that I made. And so like that CD, like I said, has kind of turned into my Christmas CD. And sort of No Leaf Clover is, at least for me, kind of like my favorite song. Like, other bands on that CD would be like, I don't know, like Incubus, Everclear. I think there's a Stained song on there. God, I'm kind of drawing. Filter. There's like 2 Filter songs on there. Just late 90s. There's even a Creed song on there, which I think I generally skip that one, so I don't know why I put it on there. But yeah, you know, so every time No Leaf Clover comes on, I kind of turn it up. And it's a cool song, but it's more about kind of what that song represents, because that's probably the last Christmas that I really have a memory of for a long time. And it's the only thing I could tell you about the Christmas of '99, was that day riding around in the car, just shooting the breeze, for probably like 6 hours, driving around delivering poinsettias. But yeah. Anyway, so, wow, it's been half an hour already. That's crazy. So one other thing I wanted to talk about before we get to Package-O-Rama over here is this is the Christmas of 2019, which means that it is the 30th anniversary of the Christmas of 1989. And this already got its own episode of Flashback, but since it's the 30th anniversary, I kind of wanted to bring it back out. So anybody that's been watching the show and has seen that episode knows that for the Christmas of 1989, I got a Nintendo Game Boy. That was the first Christmas that it was out, so it was kind of cool. I was like an early adopter of the Game Boy, and it's also the only video game console that I ever opened on Christmas morning. I got my NES as a Christmas present, but as you may recall, I got that about 2 months early. My dad gave it to me in like October, as I said, because I think he wanted to drink it too. he wanted to play it too. Sorry, I wanted to take a drink because I'm thirsty. Oh, speaking of that, by the way, I really wanted to make hot buttered rum to have for the Christmas special, but I got home and I just didn't have a lot of time to spare before I needed to start taping. So I've got some boozy eggnog in this mug. And I've also got some water if I need it. Anyway, so, you know, I don't want to tell the whole story again, but, you know, I found out that the Game Boy was supposedly a thing from some kids at school. I thought they weren't telling the truth, just because, as I said in that episode, kids say all kinds of crazy stuff when we're kids. It's like, you know, you remember, you know, everybody knew somebody that shot the dog in Duck Hunt, right? Or, you know, later on, everybody knew somebody who'd seen Lara Croft naked, right? Even though that wasn't true. And so when some kids at school were telling me that Nintendo was coming out with this thing where you could interchange the cartridges, I kind of didn't believe them. Even though by the time they told me that, it may have been printed in Nintendo Power. Maybe that's how they knew, but I didn't read Nintendo Power, so I wouldn't have known. But some point later, I went to Toys R Us and actually saw like a demo kiosk of the Game Boy, and I don't believe you could play it. I think it was behind glass. But that's kind of when I saw that, I saw it and was like, oh, that thing's real? And that's when I knew I wanted it for Christmas. And I remember I asked my dad for it, and he kind of thought about it and got back to me and said that I wasn't going to be able to get that for Christmas because I already had a Nintendo, and that was more money than they wanted to spend. But I ended up getting it anyway. I don't think I was being like a little butthead about it. It was just really the only thing I wanted for Christmas. Now, easily I could have just said, I want some game, like a Nintendo game instead, but I kind of stuck to my guns on the Game Boy thing. And come Christmas morning, it was under the tree. As I admitted in the flashback episode, I did peek. You know, I kind of opened the wrapping a little bit and, you know, saw that that's what I got. So, which I think they knew that I had. But so I just, because I don't think I showed this on the flashback episode, I do have a complete in the box Game Boy. Now, full disclosure, this is not my original Game Boy. When I was a kid, I didn't really save the boxes for things for the most part. Although I actually saved the box for my Sega Genesis for quite some time. But then I think eventually I ended up throwing it away. But so I never saved the Game Boy box. But one became sort of available for sale in the forums quite a long time ago, like just the box. Well, it said it was just the box, but as you'll see, it came with some other stuff. And so I jumped on it. So we're going to kind of do like a virtual unboxing of a Game Boy. So, you know, it came in like this styrofoam tray, which it had this other piece of styrofoam on top, which, you know, you can take off here. And then the only thing I don't have in here is the batteries. It was pretty cool. The Game Boy actually came with batteries when you bought it. And so like here, you know, it came with a copy of Tetris and the clamshell, but you didn't get a box with it, which I think was pretty common back then for like if you bought a Nintendo, like I got, you know, the control deck Nintendo that came with just Super Mario Brothers. And I certainly don't recall that coming with the box for Super Mario Brothers. Could be wrong. But so I've got my Tetris cartridge here and link cable, which I've still to this day never played a Game Boy Link game. And then this, I didn't know that I had these, or I guess I should say I didn't remember that I had these until I got this box out of the closet the other day. But it still has the original earbuds, and they've never been opened, which is pretty neat. So, and I mentioned this, I think, on the flashback, but the Game Boy this is like the first time I ever remember seeing earbuds. Because when I was a kid, you would get earphones that went like over the top of your head, had the metal band, and either still had little pieces that kind of went into your ears a little bit, or the larger like foam covered things that would sit on top of your ears, or you could get the big cans, which I don't think I ever had the big cans, but you know, I would just have normal, you know, headphones. And so this is the first time I ever saw like these buds, which I guess it was kind of cool because it seemed like sort of like this, you know, cutting edge technology having earbuds. And certainly the Game Boy sounds way better through earbuds than through the built-in speaker. First of all, because the sound quality is just better, But secondly, because unlike the NES, the Game Boy is actually in stereo, but obviously you need an external, either external speakers or headphones in order to hear the stereo sound. And then it may have originally come with a registration card. I don't have that, but I've got, like, here's the manual, compact video game system. That sounds pretty cool. And then the Tetris manual. But I think Tetris is, of course, a great game. But, I think that one of the reasons that I still like this particular version of Tetris so much is because, like, the startup music for Tetris is almost like Christmas music for me. Just because the memories I have of playing this right around Christmas, I was so happy to have gotten this thing. And I did put some batteries in it. I don't know if we'll be able to. Oh yeah, you can see the screen there a little bit. Do I have to? What do we got here? I just want. There you go. Like that takes me back, to being, what was I was 12, And it's funny, everybody talks about how crappy the screen is on this. And for sure, it's bad, but at the time we didn't care. Nobody I knew cared anyway. And I just got so many memories of, you finding an appropriate light source so that I could, angle this thing however I needed to angle it so that I could play, Tetris or the other game I got out. So this is the other game that I got for Christmas in '89. This one I think was from either my mom or my grandma. I don't remember which. But Super Mario Land, which I'm hoping to play a different version of Super Mario Land on the Christmas stream, which I'm going to record tomorrow. Well, I'm going to do it tomorrow, I should say. But I think that you guys will probably see the Christmas stream before this comes out, because obviously this video has to be edited, and a stream, of course, by its very nature, does not. So I'm going to set this aside. But like I said, that was the only video game system that I ever really got for Christmas, or at least opened on Christmas morning. The only other video game system I got as a kid was a Sega Genesis, which I got on my birthday, but as I said in that episode, my mom just drove me to Circuit City and we just kind of bought it together. So now we're going to move on to mail and packages, which, like I said, we have a lot of here, and I think that just sort of some of the stuff that's in these boxes will, by its nature, just sort of give us more stuff to kind of talk about, or just give me stuff to kind of riff on. By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear the fire. It has sound effects. I have the speakers turned on, but it might be too quiet. But so I've got a bunch of postcards here we're going to go through real quick. It's funny because somebody sent me an email, I think just yesterday. A guy named Tyler sent me an email. No, he didn't. He left a comment on one of my videos asking if I was going to be showing postcards on the Christmas video, or if I was at least going to send him a reply. And I went through all the postcards I haven't shown yet and found his. And I couldn't reply because he forgot to put a return address, which is funny. It's pretty common that people forget to put a return address. But so anyway, we'll go ahead and do Tyler's postcard first. These are not in any order. I don't put them down in the order I receive them. So we got this one from Tyler from Tulsa, Oklahoma, the oil city of the world. And normally I don't read people's postcards or letters on the show, but I figured this is the Christmas episode. So I'm going to read at least some of these. So Tyler says, "Greetings from Tulsa. Thanks for providing us such a great source of entertainment and information on all these great games, consoles, and memories. I've been watching your channels for a few years now, and I love your launch videos. I'm curious, will you ever make more videos highlighting some notable games like Super Metroid or Final Fantasy VII? Thanks for everything. All the best, Tyler." So first of all, thank you, Tyler. Thanks for watching the show, and thanks for taking the time to send this. As far as will I ever make videos highlighting some notable games, so I don't know if you're talking about making like like a specific video about Super Metroid or a specific video about Final Fantasy VII. Because I know I did make a few videos like that where it was just like, we're just going to look at this one game. And, you know, I would just say I don't have any current plans to do something like that. Like, I would rather talk about Super Metroid. I don't remember off the top of my head what year Super Metroid came out, but, you know, I would rather just say we're going to do a video like the Super Nintendo in 1990, whatever. And then, you know, whatever year that might be, Super Metroid would be a big release from that year. And so then I would just talk about it then. And same would go really for Final Fantasy VII. But thank you, Tyler. This one I won't read. This one is from William in Taipei City, Taiwan. I won't read it just because we're kind of pen pals, William and I, even though William hangs out in the Discord. And so, you know, we have kind of a lot of, you know, letters or, you know, notes we send back and forth. Although he does ask, he was talking about having a bike as a kid. He was saying he wanted a BMX bike when he was a kid, but he never got one. His aunt bought him a Norco Mini Mountaineer. I don't know what that is. Anybody out there ring a bell? Norco? And he said they lived in a rural area of Nova Scotia, and that bike gave him the freedom to go places on the weekend that he thought were fun. And that's so true. Like, I remember when I first learned how to ride a bike, and my dad bought me a bike, and it really gives you like this whole extra degree of freedom. Because before then, I was free to walk wherever I wanted to. But, you know, certainly having a bike gives you a larger radius that you can cover. And he asks here, where did you used to ride your bike as a kid? And, you know, honestly, for me, like, I don't know if I've said this on the show before, but for me, just riding bikes in general was like, that was its own thing. You weren't really necessarily going somewhere, although I used to ride my bike to Toys R Us pretty often, because there was a Toys R Us like a half a mile from my house. But as far as riding with other kids, you know, quote unquote, riding bikes was just kind of its own thing. So yeah, but thanks again for the postcard. I haven't sent you one back yet, but I will. Then we got 2 postcards. I cannot remember who sent these postcards. Let me see if I can just pull it up real quick. Because I thought I knew who sent the postcards, and then it turned out that I was wrong. Like, I thought I recognized the handwriting, and I was incorrect about that. So, I think I found it. Hold on. I'm like making you guys wait, but oh yeah, here we go. Okay, I was right. So these are from Kevin. So Kevin sent me these 2 postcards, but he didn't sign or anything either one of them, because he told me on Discord that, hey, I dropped a couple of postcards in the mail for you. But then it's funny because like I read that, and then I got the postcard sometime later, but then I forgot that I read that from him. And so I thought I knew who sent these postcards and that it was somebody else. So we got one from Minneapolis. That's a cool postcard because that's the shape of Minnesota. So that's neat. And then we got another one that just says Minnesota Moment, which sounds like it would be a brand of like instant coffee from Minnesota. And then here, let's see, we got a letter here, or it's not a letter, but it's in an envelope anyway, from Fargo, North Dakota. And this one's from last year. That's right, I forgot about this. So, wait, this is from 2 years ago? Whoa. So I don't know who this is from. Oh yeah, I do. Never mind. This is from a podcast. This guy still watches the show. So, I can't remember your name though, because you didn't sign this thing, but this guy still watches the show. So this is kind of I don't know if this story would be like funny or not, but so I remember I got this at the post office, and then it ended up in like one of the little, I don't know what you call it, like the cargo compartments of my car. And I forgot about it. And then when I got into that car accident, I picked up the car from the body shop. They had taken everything out of all the compartments because they cleaned it, like they detailed it. And this was back there, and I had forgotten about it. So this is actually 2 years old. So man, I'm sorry, man. But here, he sent this card here because he started a podcast called Weekend Rental. Because I remember he asked me first, hey, is it okay? I'm like, yeah, I didn't make up the term weekend rental. Like, go for it. So anyway, thanks, and sorry it took me 2 years to show your postcard on the show. Speaking of things that took way too long, by the way, to show on the show, you may remember that last year on the Christmas special, the very last thing that I talked about before the episode was over was a guy named Steven sent me some artwork that he made, and that included this picture that's supposed to sort of be like TNC Surf Designs, but you know, with me on the skateboard. And so, hey man, I finally got it framed, and now it has a place of honor over. This is the monitor I use to edit the show, and you can see right there, it's right next to my little whatever YouTube plaque. So thanks again, Stephen, for that. Next one here is from Steve from Chesterfield, Virginia, but he sent us this postcard from Thailand. I think he was on vacation. Oh, and he says here, last time I sent one of these, it was from Egypt, but it did not make it. You guys might remember when that was, because didn't he? I think he bought 2 postcards and sent one from Egypt, and then sent the other one from home. That's my recollection anyway. So yeah. So he says, So he says it was from Egypt, but it didn't make it. So I resent it from the U.S., but you guys half counted it, which is kind of true. So, and he says, hopefully this one from Thailand makes it. And yeah, it made it, as I told you, in the reply one that I sent you. So thank you. Next one. So this one was sent priority. I hope this guy didn't pay a lot of money for that. But, I met this guy. This is the guy that I met at the SAT Gamers Expo a couple weeks ago. This is from Ian, who, I don't know if I want to say where you live because it's a really small town. Ian lives up here in Northern California, I'll just say. And he came out to the SAT Gamers Expo, and I had a really nice conversation with him. And Ian sent us this postcard from Germany. So that's pretty cool. He calls me in the postcard one of the premier historians of the 80s and 90s NorCal gaming generation. I don't know if I agree with that, but I appreciate that you said it anyway. So thanks, Ian. Next here we have another card, which I think, if I remember correctly, this is a Halloween card. So this guy sent me this Halloween card. This is from Kyle in Yuba City, California, which is also not too far from here. And sent me this sticker, I think, trying to get me to vote. Vote Green Party. And just says, I truly enjoy your YouTube videos. Our ages are similar. The choice of games and systems really takes me back to my childhood. It would be truly excellent to see you devote a video or two to my true passion, the Nintendo Game Boy. And yeah, Kyle, I would... he calls himself the Game Boy Guru. That's pretty cool. I don't know, does that mean, do you have a YouTube channel called the Game Boy Guru, or are you just a Game Boy Guru? Either way, that's cool. I definitely want to do a launch of the Nintendo Game Boy video. In fact, I started a while back. I started writing one and you know, downloading images and whatnot, and I just never really got around to finishing it, because I was trying to figure out exactly how I want to talk about the launch of the NES and then also talk about the launch of the game. That's 2 separate videos, I understand, but I always felt like it would be a lot cooler to sort of tell the whole story of Gunpei Yokoi in the launch of the Game Boy video, but then that would mean not telling the whole story of Gunpei Yokoi in the launch of the NES video, which is going to be kind of hard to do. Next here, we have another postcard from Marcelo down in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And that postcard has a picture of a fox on it, but it's a picture that he took. So that's pretty neat. He says he just received, I had sent him a postcard. So he said, he just received my postcard. Thanks a lot. I'm sending you another card I had printed out of a photo I took while visiting the Argentinian Patagonia back in 2013. So that is pretty cool. I don't know, did you get that? I mean, you couldn't have gotten that close, but maybe he has like a really long telephoto lens or something, but that's a cool picture. Next, we've only got 2 more. Next, this one comes from Dan in Sayville, New York. And some of you may remember that Dan sent us a postcard, and on the front of it, it had the duck house. and it was just like a gigantic duck with like a door in its chest or something like that. And I had asked, I don't remember if I asked on the show or only in the postcard that I sent back to Dan, like, what's the duck house? Because that, you know, seems interesting. And so he sent this postcard just from Sayville, and it says, "Hey Chris, wishing you a Merry Christmas. Regarding my last postcard, the Big Duck House, it was built in 1931, and ducks and eggs were sold out of it on Eastern Long Island. So that is pretty awesome. Keep up the amazing work with CGQ. I meant every word when I wrote about your ability to tell a story and capture nostalgia in a bottle." I appreciate that, but at the same time, 50 minutes into the Christmas special, I can't help but wonder how many people are even still watching. But that's okay. And the last one, we just got this postcard today, actually. I wanted to make sure on the way home from work, I stopped at the P.O. box, just because this was like people's last chance to, you know, have their stuff be included in the Christmas special. So I would have felt really bad if I went and checked my mail tomorrow and there was something in there and it was like too late to show it. So, and what's cool is that this postcard is from Jeff in Taiwan. And this says Tainan on it, Tainan, Taiwan. I don't know if that's the name of a city in Taiwan. I don't know. But it says Jeff from Taiwan. He didn't give me his return address, so he can't get a reply unless just email me if you want one. But I thought it was cool. He said, "Love watching CGQ and CGQ Plus, my favorite YouTube channels. Thanks for the good times." So thank you, Jeff, for sending this. But this means, as far as I know, assuming that Jeff lives in Taiwan, that we now have sort of two members of the CGQ fan club that live in Taiwan, because William lives in Taiwan. And it only takes two people to form a club. You guys could have like Classic Gaming Quarterly meetups in Taiwan. That would be cool. And then I could come. Maybe not. But anyway, yeah, that's it for the postcards. But so thank you, Jeff. That's pretty cool. And then I got one other package, and the person asked to remain anonymous. And I cannot remember if I mentioned this at all on the show previously, but even on just the off chance that I didn't mention it, I want to mention it again. It was a guy that lives here in Northern California, specifically asked to remain anonymous. But as you guys might remember, I really screwed up my back at the first convention, well, on my way to the first convention that I went to. It's fine now, by the way. I'm all better. But he sent me a package with a bunch of like Southeast Asian like muscle relief patches, like Tiger Balm patches and stuff like that, and just mentioned that he had also screwed up his back and that those things really helped him a lot. And I used quite a few of those and they were really helpful, but it was just such a thoughtful thing that you did, sending those to me, and I just really appreciate it, man. So hopefully you're out there and you hear this. All right, so now we're going to get to the packages. This is still going to take a while. You know, it's been 50 something minutes, and we're just barely getting started. But yeah, so let's go. So as I always say, these are not in any particular order. I'm just pulling them off the pile. This first package comes from Corey in Cincinnati, Ohio. Yes, that Corey, My Life in Gaming Corey, not other Corey, right? Because there's the other Corey from Detroit, Michigan, if I remember correctly. So yeah, so not him. But I mean, this wasn't really a package that Corey sent, you know, for the purpose of being shown on the show. But Corey and I just basically, we kind of traded packages like last week. I had that, I think I meant, did I mention I had that Game Boy Color backpack that I got from Pete Scarrett when I was at Retro World? And I used it to transport a bunch of games that he gave me back here. But Corey mentioned that he wanted it for his kids. I don't know which kid, but he wanted it for one of his kids. And so I was going to mail it to him. But then it turned out that I had a few magazines that I had doubles of that I was going to, you know, send to him. So I put those in the backpack. And then I put a few extras in there. And, you know, because when you're shipping flat rate, it's just, as long as you got room in there, like, you might as well keep stuffing things in there. And so he kind of did the same thing. So he stuck a couple of PlayStation games in the box. We got Jet Moto 2, which, at least in my opinion, the first Jet Moto is way better than Jet Moto 2. But that's still cool because I don't have a copy of Jet Moto 2. So if I ever need to, you know, I like having stuff like this, like I've said before, because, excuse me, if we do a magazine read through and it talks about Jet Moto 2, now I have a copy of the game to record the gameplay footage with. And the other one here is Pong: The Next Level, also for the PlayStation, which I don't know anything about this game. I mean, obviously I am very familiar with Pong, but I haven't played this one, but hopefully it's cool. And then I can't show you guys this. That's a surprise for later. You guys can't see that right now. And then he sent us 4 issues of Electronic Gaming Monthly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. These are not in any order. I'm just pulling them off the pile here. We got September 1992. It's the 1992 fall preview issue. They got Ren and Stimpy on the cover there. Sorry, I'm trying to avoid the glare. I don't know what. Oh, this is Sonic 2. New picks never seen before. Exclusive Game Gear coverage. Because in September of 92. No, Sonic 2 came out in November of 92, I think. Late November. Like Sonic Tuesday was like November 20 something. I want to say. But, ooh, what is that? Oh, Gargoyle's Quest 2. I mean, I got a lot of magazines here. We don't really have time to thumb through all of them, unfortunately. But, you know, hopefully some of these magazines will get featured on future episodes of Let's Read. So that one's pretty cool. Next, we have July of 1991. That's pretty awesome cover. We got Terminator 2 on the cover. Also exclusive fall preview. July's a little early for a fall preview, don't you think? First picks of Castlevania 4, because of course this is before the Super Nintendo came out, and which I know that wasn't a launch game, but Castlevania 4, Super Castlevania 4 was a very early game for the Super Nintendo. Check that out. Super Nintendo to make its US debut at the Summer CES. That's pretty cool. And they even have pictures of, like, there's the PCB of the Super Nintendo controller. That's pretty wild. And then this was a cool one to get. You know, I probably have digital versions of all these issues, but these are really cool to have physical copies of. Here's September 1991, and then it's got the Sega CD on the cover. They're calling it the Genesis CD-ROM preview. And then Nintendo Special, Super Bases Loaded, Trog, Shatterhand. Shatterhand's a good game. Earth Defense Force, Game Boy Blades of Steel, 16-bit Blowout, NHL Hockey, Speedball 2, Parasol Stores, Saint Sword. So that one, I mean, to me, this is like a prime candidate for an episode of Let's Read. Remember the Super Famicom times? Like there's Earth Defense Force there. Super F1 Built to Win. Anyway. And then this is probably the one, easily this is the one that, we should get the most excited about. First year EGMs are not something you come across very often. Does this even, it has to say on here somewhere. I want to say this was like issue number 4. Well, there it is. Sorry, it's hard to see. This is issue number 4, display until November 30th, 1989. And you can see that the cover story is Ghouls and Ghosts for the Sega Genesis. What else they got in here? Over 25 reviews and previews. Thunder Force 2, Blazing Lasers, Bad Dudes, and Ninja Gaiden 2. Wow. Once again, prime candidate for, wow, look at that. For a Let's Read. Look at that. There's an FM Towns. That never came out here that I know of. So the next read-through I'm going to do is EGM issue number 1. And so, this wouldn't be coming that soon, but it would be fun to start stepping through some of the old EGMs, just like we're going to do with some of the old Nintendo Powers. Look, there's Sega Masters, where they would talk about Sega Master System games. Anyway, that's very generous, Corey. Thanks a lot. I'm sure that EGM issue number 4 is worth some bucks, so Corey could have easily sold it on eBay or something. So anyway, next package. This one comes from Derek and Theresa. I think anybody who's sort of a show regular, and certainly a Discord regular or live stream regular, knows Derek and Theresa. Well, I don't have time to read this entire thing, but we'll read some of it here. My wife and I greatly enjoy your videos and live streams, which evident because they hang out in the chat, both of them, for the live streams, which is really cool. And most of all, the memories you share with each one. On your most recent Let's Read with Corey, that was the live one that we did at Retro World, you briefly talked about the ASCII pad. I had an ASCII pad when I was a teenager. I purchased the Super Nintendo sometime in 1991. A few months after I played one for the first time at a Christmas party where my friend Bobby had F-Zero and John Madden football. That's pretty cool. After that, I was determined to get one, but my parents told me to start saving. It was winter, and I didn't want to wait until summer lawn mowing money would be able to make it happen. Yeah, there's like certain times a year where as a kid you can easily make more money, right? Like during the warm weather months, spring and summer, you can make some lawn mowing money. Or one of my main ways to make money was in the fall. I would go rake leaves for people and make money that way. So I instead decided to sell off one of our NES systems. He says we had two. I had one and my brother had the other in our respective rooms. That's pretty nice. Oh, he said he sold it to Funko Land. Did they have that store in California? Yeah, we got Funko Land in like 1997, which is pretty late. But I remember that was cool. We picked up some really cheap NES games at Funko Land. When that finally showed up. He said he ended up selling about 40 NES games because he traded them into Funko Land to have enough money to get an SNES with one controller and no game included. I bought F-Zero, and since I had to persuade my brother to sell those NES games, we bought an extra controller, which was the ASCII pad. So that's pretty cool. Keep up the great work, and I hope your car returns from the shop soon so you can feel complete again. Yeah, I really didn't like not having my car. So thank you. And so yeah, I mentioned in that I mentioned in that Let's Read Live that like every time I see an ad, because they used to put ads in a lot of the magazines for the ASCII pad, and every time I see an ad for one, it makes me want to get one. And in fact, I don't remember. I want to say it was like July 92. I really don't remember. It was like one of the first Let's Reads I ever did, although not the first one. It was an EGM from, let's just say it was the summer of 92. And I mentioned in that episode that magazine was what got me into collecting video game magazines because I saw it. I found it at a flea market for 50 cents. And so I read through it. And one of the things I remember about that magazine is that it had an ad for the ASCII pad. And I remember thinking like, that looks exactly like a Super Nintendo controller, but with this turbo functionality. And sure enough, if you feel it, it feels like the same level of quality as a Super Nintendo controller, but with the turbos. So obviously I haven't tested this out yet because I was waiting for this, waiting to do this episode. But thank you, Theresa and Derek, both. That's pretty awesome. I mentioned in that Let's Read Live that I was going to go try to find one of these down on the show floor at Retro World, and I didn't find one, so now I finally got one. So thank you both very much. All right, I think we need to turn this light down a little bit now because it's getting darker in here because, like I told you guys, the sun's starting to go down. So yeah, I think that's better. So then you can see the fire better. I wish I wasn't standing in the way of the fire so much. Okay, so the next package, so this one, we got the postcard from William in Taipei City, Taiwan, and that postcard actually came with this. And this, you can see, anybody who's in the Discord knows how much William loves his cigars. So he's got this cigar box with a bunch of goodies in it. Mostly candy, which is cool, like candy, and I guess, I don't know, is that bubble gum? And then we got some Tomica cars, which I'll show you guys that in a second. So I really don't know anything about this. This is like these boxes of Asian candy. So that's, it says Morinaga Caramel Apple Milk. I don't know. I don't know what that is, but it sounds really good. So we got, and this one says Milk Caramel. So that also sounds like good stuff. And obviously he likes it because he sent me a bunch of it. So I can't wait to try those. So thanks, man. And then what else we got in here? We got some like I said, I'm assuming this is gum. It says Play Bubble. I don't know what that's all about, but this is cola flavored gum, and then I got a few of these, and then I got a grape flavored gum. So those are pretty awesome. And then we got 3 Tomica cars. So Tomica cars, these are like Hot Wheels, but they're primarily sold in Asia. I don't know if this is a Chinese company or a Japanese company. Off the top of my head, I think it's Japanese, but I wouldn't swear to it. And so he sent me 3 cars here. Was it 3 cars or 4? I think there's 4 cars and there's one missing. Yeah, I think 1 car, I took it out of the box and forgot to put it back. So sorry, man. But somebody else sent me the same car, which is cool because I have multiple car collections in different locations. The first one here, we got a Porsche Boxster. And I'll show you what these look like. But they're the same scale as Hot Wheels. So they're 1/64th. And I mean, some people think that Tomica cars are a little bit higher quality than Hot Wheels. I don't know if I really agree with that. I think I'd say they're pretty much even. But as far as I know, I think all Tomica cars are real cars, whereas Hot Wheels has lots of like fantasy cars, which I'm really not into. I only really want the real cars. And then I won't take this one out of the box just because I already took that one out of the box, but this is a Porsche 911 Carrera. It doesn't say what year it would be on it. If I had to guess, I would say that's maybe like 2008-ish. Like they have generations, right? So like a 2007, 2008 would look like the same. But I would say that's what that is. But this was by far, in my opinion, the coolest one, and I'll tell you why. Let me try to open this drape a little bit. It's just getting real dark in here. Seeing like the color of this doesn't match anymore. Ooh, look at that. That's way better. Is it better? I go like that and then like that. Sorry, I like to futz with this kind of stuff, but I think that looks a little bit better. Anyway, you know, the last vacation my wife and I went to, one of the places I went to is the Porsche Museum in Stuttgart, in Germany. And they have a full-size version of this car. So I don't remember the character's name, but you know, you had the movie Cars, the Pixar movie. You had Lightning McQueen, and then you had like the girl that was like his love interest, who was a Porsche 911. I don't remember her name, but they have a full-size version of that car, and it's an actual drivable car at the Porsche Museum, and it looks like a 911, but the body is actually different to make it look more cartoony. And every time I go to Target, well, not every time, but usually when I go to Target and look for Hot Wheels, they still sell Cars toys, Cars-themed toys, Cars the movie-themed toys. And they have them at Target, and I always look for this one, and I've never seen it. But apparently, Tomica made one. So you might not have expected when you sent me these that this is the one that I would get the biggest kick out of, William, but that's really awesome. So thanks. I've had this package for probably like 2 months, and I've been waiting to make this video so that I could add all these cars to, like, I have a case of Hot Wheels down in the basement. So I've been waiting to put these in the case with those. All right. Little eggnog. All right. I'm just pulling them off the top of the pile here. So next, oh yeah, I've had this one for a while. This is a big one. And I mean big as in like heavy hitter. So this one comes from Jordan in Yardley, Pennsylvania. I don't know where that is exactly in Pennsylvania. There's a lot of packaging in there we can just chuck. Oh yeah, and so this guy, was that what's in this part? Oh yeah, here we go. All right, so there's a lot of stuff in this package, but one of the things he sent me is more cars. So this is also a Tomica, and it's 1/64th. This is a Nissan Fairlady, but this appears to be like some kind of premium Tomica, just based even just on the packaging. It's still sealed, so I don't know if I really want to open it, but it has a lot more detail. The wheels look like they're probably rubber, But, you know, I mentioned this one time. I think I mentioned this. Did I mention this? That at one point when I was a kid, my dad and my stepmom had matching Nissan 240Zs. And my dad's actually was brown. And that certainly is what color that looks like to me. I can't, the lighting is low in here now, so I can't really tell. But so, I mean, that's a really cool one, man. Thanks. And then the other one, which is also really cool, is, and this is a Mini Champs brand. Mini Champs makes a lot of like Formula One replicas. And I don't know what, so this is 1/43rd. So this is quite a bit bigger than a Hot Wheel. But this is a Prost brand Grand Prix car. So that was, I don't want to bore people, but Alain Prost is one of the all-time greatest Formula One drivers. And for like 2 years, he ran a Formula One team. But what's cool about this one is that it has like PlayStation. They were sponsored by PlayStation, Bic pens, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, but that's really cool, man. So thanks. I don't know if did he put a letter in here and we just haven't gotten to it yet. I think it's kind of buried in here. Let's see, is it here? Yeah, here we go. I feel rude not opening the letter first, but it was buried in there a little bit. Hopefully it's okay if I read this. Hey man, really enjoying your CGQ Plus and Let's Read videos. Thought you might enjoy some, I don't want to say, I don't want to spill the beans here. I'm a pro translator, so Jordan speaks Japanese and reads Japanese. I'm a pro translator, so let me know if there's anything that you'd like translated. That's pretty awesome. I got you some Tomikas, which we already saw, or we saw some of them. They're not as easy to collect as Hot Wheels, for sure, since they're much more expensive and they can't be displayed in the package. That's very true. So most people who collect Hot Wheels, not most people, but a lot of people who collect Hot Wheels, they don't open them, which I think is weird. I like to open my Hot Wheels. But certainly if you collect Tomikas, you have to open them or you can't see what you have. The Mini Champs one isn't from Japan, but I thought it was cool since it has the PlayStation logo on it. The postcard is part of a Twinkle Star Sprites set that I got in Akihabara. Check the game out sometime if you haven't already. And then there's what the postcard looks like. So that's pretty cool. I don't believe I've ever played Twinkle Star Sprites, so I'll check it out. Oh, and Jordan's name, like on the, I'm pretty sure you hang out in the Discord sometimes, BusterD, and also on Patreon, BusterD. But yeah, so I recognize the BusterD, not the Jordan. But so thanks, man, for that. But we still have more stuff in the box to go through. So I think this is more Tomika cars. Which I think there's going to be some overlap. Well, first of all, I mean, just check out this bag. So this bag obviously came from some kind of like Japanese electronics store. I don't know if you guys are going to be able to see some of the logos on there. You know, you see Casio, Sharp, Toshiba, Lenovo, Apple. That's a pretty cool bag. That bag I'm not going to throw across the room because I want to keep that one. So let's see here. Okay, so we got another one. This is another Porsche, same Porsche Carrera we got from William. So basically, just here's the deal. So I have a collection of 1/64th Porsches down in the basement. I have a second collection of 1/64th Porsche cars on my desk at work. So any like Porsche Hot Wheel I buy two, so I can have one in each place. So having two of them is perfect because I can have one for each location. So nothing to worry about. Put that right there. And then we got, so this is the one, I'm pretty sure William sent me one of these too, and I think I took it out of the box and forgot to put it back in. But this is a Porsche 911 Carrera RS 2.7. It doesn't say on here, but that would be from 1972. For anybody that remember, I have that Porsche hoodie that I sometimes wear. That hoodie is like specifically in like commemoration of the RS 2.7. So and this one says premium on it. I think this one has rubber wheels. Although maybe they all do, I don't know. And this one's not a Porsche, but you know, Jordan knows that I'm also a fan of Volkswagens. And so there is an original, that's the original re-released Volkswagen Beetle. So that one is also pretty awesome. So so thanks for that as well. And then we get into some more awesome stuff. Now we got some books and magazines down here. So I'm not, well, I'll do the bottom one first here because this one's sort of relevant to what we were talking about. So this is a book all about Tomica cars. Like basically it's sort of a catalog. I flicked through it already a little bit because my my office mate is super into cars just like I am, like model cars. And so she wanted to check this out. But so this is called Tomica 1000 Super Perfect Collection. And like I said, it's really just a catalog of like all of Tomica's cars. I don't know through its entire history or what. But it's a pretty cool book. So thanks, man. And then we got some gaming magazines here, which are pretty neat. So this, I don't know who put this out. So this is this PlayStation, Japanese sort of like mini PlayStation guide. And I don't know if you can see down here, it says PlayStation Classic on it. And it shows a picture of the PlayStation Classic. So this is something that would have come out recently, sort of to commemorate the PlayStation Classic coming out. And what do we got in here? You gotta remember to read it backwards. Oh wow, look at that. Like, they even have like, you know, they're showing like different PlayStation peripherals or accessories that came out, showing some games. This certainly seems like a lot more games than was on the PlayStation Classic, I think. Or maybe not. I'm not familiar with the lineup of the PlayStation Classic, but I don't want to spend too much time thumbing through this on camera, but really cool. It comes with a dust cover, too. That's very classy for a paperback book to have a dust cover. Next here, so Weekly Famicom Tsushin, better known as Famitsu. I mean, I'm assuming everybody here is familiar with Famitsu. You know, I would say Weekly Famitsu is probably the most famous Japanese video game magazine. So check that out. And this is from February 28th, 1992. So one thing I was going to say, because there's a couple, there's a couple of like vintage Japanese video game magazines here. And so one thing I thought would be cool to do, I can't really do a read through because I can't read anything, but just do like, maybe we could call it a flick through. And, you know, maybe I would make that like a Patreon exclusive video or something, just as I'm not sure that would have like broad appeal. But yeah, I'm not sure what game they're showing on the cover here. Obviously it's an American football game. I don't know what would have come out in 1992. Yeah, I don't know. But that one's pretty cool. So I don't have any Japanese video game magazines, so these are all going to be awesome. Next here, we've got Beep. Now, I've mentioned Beep before, maybe in one of the launch videos or something, and this is Beep Mega Drive. So this is a Mega Drive specific issue. He didn't put a note on here saying when it's from. Oh, well, it says here though it's August 1994. So and you can see there's a Saturn there too. So well, that's pretty cool. You see Sonic and Tails on the cover. So I'll look forward to. I haven't really looked at any of these. When I got the package, I opened it and just kind of like saw what was in there, but I didn't. I kind of wanted to wait until we did this episode before I started like actually using any of this stuff. Next, this one, I only know this because he put the post-it note. This one's called Mega Drive Fan, and this is from July of 1991. You can see that they've got Sonic on the cover here, but then it specifically is talking about the CD-ROM, so maybe that Sonic CD, that's definitely not the original Sonic that they're talking about there. Well, I don't know what game that is on the back. That's a cool ad on the back for some kind of, some Game Gear game. But that one's cool. And then lastly, so I think sort of in the same vein as the PlayStation Classic book, we got this Beep Mega Drive Fan book. But this is not from back in the day. I think this is because of the Mega Drive Mini that got released. And then they even included, I guess this must have come with it, I'm guessing. Jordan, you can tell me. It comes with this Darius Perfect guide. Because, you know, Darius was included on the Mega Drive Mini. And, I mean, there's just a lot of cool pictures in here. I don't know if this is a strategy guide. It looks like it's a strategy guide. It's all in Japanese, so I'm guessing. And then the book itself has a DVD-ROM in it. So I'd be curious to see what's on there. I don't know if I can... If it's a DVD-ROM, I should be able to at least just see what the contents are. I don't have a region-free DVD player, so if it's like DVD movies that you have to play on a DVD player, then we might have some problems. But, yeah, this is pretty cool. So thank you so much, Jordan. That was just a great package. Okay, next. This one comes from Mike or Michael in Lake Oswego, Oregon. And, you know, I've shown his stuff on the show before. You may remember Mike was the one that sent us the Super Nintendo Mini and Madden 93 Championship Edition. He sent me a t-shirt from Portland Retro Gaming Expo from, I think, last year. Mike has been extremely generous with me and with the show, and so it's much appreciated. And this year he sent in this package. He, of course, went to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, since he lives right near there. And so again, we got a t-shirt from this year's show. And it's pretty cool. It's a ringer tee. Gotta kind of back up here. But so it's, you know, because this was 2019. See, I was celebrating 2019 because that's when 30-year anniversary of me getting my Game Boy. And they're doing the same thing here. 1989 to 2019, Game Boy and Genesis. Well, I mean, you guys forgot one. The TurboGrafx 16 also came out in 1989. I understand that's not as popular, but still. And then it looks like, somebody else correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that the ship from Super Metroid that they're using? If so, that's kind of weird. But I mean, in any case, that's a pretty cool shirt. So, so thanks, Mike or Michael. And then, we got a program from Portland Retro Gaming Expo. Wow, Insurrection Industries advertised in here, and I didn't know Angry Video Game Nerd went to the expo this year. Anyway, that's pretty cool. I got to get back up there one of these days. I haven't been to the Portland Retro Gaming Expo since like maybe 2012 or something. You know, I thought I'll go if they invite me as a YouTuber, but honestly, I think I'd rather just go as a visitor. But then, so he sent me 2 issues of Electronic Gaming Monthly that he got at the show. And once again, just extremely generous. These are also very early issues. And so I'm pretty happy to have them. I hope he got a better deal than this, just because, I mean, not that they're not worth it. It's a lot of money to spend just to send something to me, but it's much appreciated. We've got EGM number 11. And this one's got Golgo 13, the Moffat Conspiracy on the cover. We just talked about Golgo 13, the first game. On the last Let's Read sneak preview of Phantasy Star 3. For Nintendo, Abadox, Burai Fighter, Bigfoot, and Ninja Gaiden 2. For Genesis, Air Diver, Afterburner 2, Target Earth, and Ghostbusters. So, and these issues are in very good condition. These are these early issues where they were stapled together. So oftentimes it's hard to find these in good condition, just because it's really easy for the cover to rip. And so later, EGM switched to using like a glued spine, and that kept the magazines in better condition. And then the other one we got here is issue number 13, and that's the 1990 Christmas preview. You see that Strider is on the cover. Genesis Heat, super pics of 8 meg Strider. Because remember, that was the first 8 meg game. And first test of Sega's Mega Hot handheld, and that's got a Game Gear there. First screens of the Simpsons game. But yeah, so, this year, between magazines that I've bought and magazines that have been sent in, we've actually really kind of fleshed out our early EGM library. So thank you very much, Michael. That stuff is awesome. Next, this is from Mike. Mike McFly is what he goes by on YouTube and in the Discord and everywhere else. Mike lives down in Lake City, Florida. And let's see what we got from Mike. We got more cars, which is awesome. So we got a Matchbox car that actually came in a box, which I've never seen these for sale, so I don't even know where you go to get one of these. But it appears to be a Volkswagen bus, which, you know, I love my Volkswagen Beetle, but boy, the one thing I would trade it for in a hot minute is a bus. And wow, this is a nice one. So this, you know, there you see it's the bus. It looks like the same color bus as the terrorist drove in Back to the Future. And wow, white wall tires. And this one's metal even on the bottom, so that's pretty cool. So so yeah, that's a nice one. We got a couple. So he always keeps an eye out for me for cars he knows that I'm looking for. So we got two Porsche 911 GT3 RSs, Hot Wheels, mainline Hot Wheels. So thanks for that. I think I ran across one of these at a Target, and that's it. So I've been having a hard time finding one of those, so it's cool that I got one from you. 68 Copo Camaro. Look at the paint job on that thing. That just looks awesome. What do we got here? We got some Pop Rocks. Strawberry Pop Rocks and watermelon Pop Rocks. I would eat them right now on camera, but I think that would be annoying with the microphone. Oh, we got one more Hot Wheel Matchbox. We got a Volkswagen Type 34 Karmann Ghia. So I actually have a little bit of a history with the Karmann Ghia, kind of. So when I was born, my mom drove a Karmann Ghia, and like she bought it and they shipped it over from Germany. Like she had to order it from a Volkswagen dealership, and they shipped it over from Germany, and she actually went and picked it up. My mom was living in Santa Monica at the time, and she like went to the docks or whatever to pick it up and drove it around for a bunch of years. But you know, then she got pregnant, and so like a Karmann Ghia is not really what you want to have if you got a baby. And so she sold it to my Aunt Karen, who had it until she died. And now my cousin still has it. Apparently it was the last year they made Karmann Ghias. I don't know what year that was. Moving on. Is there a... I'm not seeing a note in here, but... By the way, there was not a note in Michael's package, which I'm only saying because I don't want anybody saying, hey, you didn't read the note. Oh, we got some Fruit Stripe gum. I haven't had Fruit Stripe gum. See, I'd chew some right now, but it will make annoying noises in the microphone if I eat any gum or chew any gum. But I remember I used to buy the big packs, the plenty packs of Fruit Stripe. And then we got some Smarties in here. You remember I talked about Smarties on the Halloween episode. Because even though, like, I wouldn't really say that I like Smarties, but it's like you get real nostalgic because we would always get a lot of Smarties on Halloween because they were cheap. By the way, if you're in Canada, I know in Canada they have something called Smarties, but they're actually like M&Ms. But here in the U.S., Smarties is basically chalk with sugar in it. But I'll eat them. But it's one of those things. Smarties is like McDonald's. Like a McDonald's hamburger is not good, but you've been eating them since you were a kid, and so you almost like get nostalgic for it. We've got some cards here. I don't really have time to like flick through them, but we got some Garbage Pail Kids. What is this one? Slender Slade. So I think that must be from a horror movie, and I don't get the reference. So I'll let somebody else can be the hero and tell me what that is. And then we got some Beavis and Butthead cards, which I don't remember there being Beavis and Butthead cards. So like that's pretty awesome. I've never seen those, but we got a whole stack of those. So I'll look forward to flicking through those later. I wish I could do it now. And then we got a box in here with, whoops, with a Sega Saturn game. So that's pretty cool. It's funny, I remember he posted in the Discord, I think, when he found this game, and I was saying, oh, that's a cool game, but I wasn't asking for it. But it's cool that you sent it. I'm going to keep it. I appreciate it. Last Gladiators Digital Pinball. And I mentioned it because there's a magazine read that I started working on a read-through for, and this was in the magazine. And, well, so now I have a copy of the game to record gameplay footage of. I just like video pinball games, so that's really cool to have. So thanks for the great package, Mike. I hope I'm not incorrect that there was no note in here. I would hate it if there was one and I didn't read it or something, or I missed it, but I'm not seeing one. So thank you. Next, what do we got? So this one is from Brian. Brian, up until, I don't know, this week maybe, was going by Richard Cheese on YouTube. And I know I think I've mentioned Richard Cheese on the show, maybe on a live stream or something. He's one of the administrators of the website RetroMags, which is that website is of great help to the show. I did the read-through of the GamePro Celebrity Video Gamers magazine, and that was a magazine that Richard sent in and let me borrow to do the read-through with. And I mentioned in a read-through of, it might have been that magazine, but I wouldn't swear to it. One of the magazines we recently did a read-through of mentioned this magazine in it, and I was saying, oh, it'd be cool to have an issue of that, but I couldn't find one on eBay. And then Brian reached out and said that he had one, an extra one. And so he sent this one in. This one we get to keep. But that is this GamePro's handheld video games. And as I said, the next read-through I'm going to do is EGM issue number 1. But I think I might do this one immediately after that. And Brian also sent in 2 postcards. Sorry, I should have mentioned Brian is from Ottawa, Ottawa, Ontario. And so he sent us 2 postcards from Ottawa. This one and this one. And Brian says, here are a couple postcards for your collection to go with the magazine. This is one of the ceremonial changing of the guards on Parliament Hill that happens every day during the summer. See that again? I didn't know they did that there. I went and saw the changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace in London. It was pretty cool. The other postcard, this one, is of the Chateau Laurier. I'm probably not saying that right. With Parliament in the background and Gatineau, Quebec on the other side of the river. I'm probably not saying that right. Keep up the great work on the channels, and if there's ever anything you need, don't hesitate to ask. So thanks, Brian. Thanks for the cool postcards. I'm going to keep these postcards in with the magazine. I hate it when somebody sends me a magazine and then I don't keep something with it so that I know who sent it in. I had a problem with that with Nintendo Power issue 2. I had to do some research to figure out who it was that sent it in, because at one point there was a slip of paper in there, but somehow it got lost. But so anyway, thanks a lot, Brian, for this magazine. This is awesome. Sorry, stuff's starting to pile up over here. Oh, all right. So this one, we just got this one, I don't know, maybe last week. This one comes from, this is from Redondo Beach, California. Sorry, my eye's all itchy. This is from Redondo Beach, California, and it's from Ruben and, is it Kailee? Your wife, Ruben's wife's name is, I think, it's Kailee. Kailee or Kaylee? I feel like it's Kailee. And I have no idea what this is, because I opened this box and this was inside, which is, I'm not even saying this to blow smoke up of anybody's anything. This is probably the most nicely wrapped Christmas present I've ever been given. So I didn't want to ruin it, so I just kept it wrapped. At one point I was thinking like, oh, I'm going to wrap all of these, for the, just to put on a good show. But then I just figured, that seems kind of dumb. And I know I said the exact same thing last year. I was going to wrap them, and then I didn't. But anyway, this one's wrapped. So we're going to find out what's in it together. Like, I mean, are you like a professional, like, gift wrapper or something? Like, this is amazing. You remember, do they still do this? You know, when you go to, you can go to department stores and they have, like the gift wrapping department. Anybody ever do that? You know, when you'd go to the department store and you'd buy something for some, especially, I mean, I don't want to be sexist, but I think in general, I think it's okay to say that women generally do a better job of wrapping gifts than guys do. Like I knew I wasn't going to do a good job, so I would pay the professionals to do it. All right, anyway. So we got a cardboard box inside the package. And let's see what we got here. Whoa. What is this? I don't even know what this is. Look at that. It's a book. But look, it looks like a gigantic Legend of Zelda cartridge. Oh, all right. The Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia. The Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia is the ultimate resource for any fan of the Legend of Zelda series and includes information from the original 8-bit game all the way up to Twilight Princess HD, 30 years worth of Zelda. This book contains a comprehensive collection of enemies and items, dungeon guides, an examination of the history and lore of Hyrule and other lands, concept art, character relationship charts, developer notes, and much, much more, including an interview with the series producer, A.G. I don't know how to say his name, sorry. In addition, this deluxe edition, so I guess there was a regular edition, and this is the deluxe edition, so wow. This deluxe edition of Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia includes a slipcase, gold foil cover, and this instruction booklet. So this is like this booklet that's in here. I don't even know what that is. Well, you guys will have to bear with me. I want to check this out real fast. If I can get it open. There we go. Wow, it's actually a plastic slipcover that feels like it's made out of the same material that the original cartridge slipcovers were made out of. Like, I had no idea this was a thing that existed. So this is pretty neat. So I'm kind of curious what this instruction booklet's all about. Yeah, see, Legend of Zelda Encyclopedia instruction booklet. Wow. That's pretty cool. I mean, it seems like it's just sort of what the book is about. So then let's get this box out of here first. I'm not going to be able to get the door open now. So, like, see, there's the plastic slip. This thing is crazy. I never knew that this was a thing. And then here's the book. Like I said, gold foil cover. Wow. This is extremely classy. Wow. I mean, I don't want to make everybody sit here and watch me thumb through this whole thing, but I'm going to thumb through this whole thing off camera. What a nice book. And what an excellent addition to the Classic Gaming Quarterly Research Library, which at some point I'll make a video about because a few people have said they wanted to see it. I have a whole shelf full of books that I use when I'm writing the show. So Ruben and Kailee, hopefully Kailee, I really can't thank you enough. I'm sure this wasn't cheap. And it's extremely thoughtful. So thank you to you guys so much. Whew. All right, so we got one more. Okay, so this one, I don't have a box or anything for this one. So this is from a fellow Chris. This is Chris from Tampa Bay, Florida. And so it's funny, I should have known. I got an Amazon package at the P.O. box, which Amazon packages for me. If I order something, it never goes to the P.O. box if it's from Amazon. But there was nothing on the outside of the box to say like, oh, this is a Christmas present or something. So I went ahead and opened the box, and so I saw what it was. But we did get a note because when you give a gift on Amazon, it lets you write a gift note here, and it says Chris Head 1000. I don't know if Bithead would appreciate that, but I think it's funny. AKA Chris, that's me. I hope this early Christmas gift. Sorry, something got spilled on here. Oh, I see. I hope this early Christmas gift makes it under your tree for a few months. I hope you live stream more Super Nintendo and Nintendo games. for the Christmas special, Make a Limo Game Again. Chris B. from Tampa, Florida. And he got me a Porsche Lego set that has the Porsche 911 RSR. So that is the race car that races in the GT class, both GT Pro and GT Am of like the sports car series, like the World Endurance Championship, races at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. And then over here we've got a 911 Turbo 3.0, which, you know, looks like I would say it's like an older one, you know, like maybe from the 90s or even earlier than that. But that's a pretty cool set, and it's even got like a timekeeper over here. That's a really cool set, man. So thanks so much. I'm looking forward to building this maybe during my Christmas vacation. So thank you, Chris. Then, so we have 3 packages left, but they're all from the same person. And that's Josh. Josh lives in Illinois. Josh goes by the online handle CreativeAssassin. I've tweeted out articles he's written for his website before, which I think is just creativeassassin.com probably. Like he wrote a great article about Castlevania 2 and why it's not as bad as people think, and it has a walkthrough. I used his walkthrough to beat Castlevania 2 before I did the read-through of Nintendo Power Issue 2. But, you know, Josh is also a live stream regular and a Discord regular, and I've talked to him a lot on there. So, so I appreciate that he sent this stuff in. So, there is a note from Josh. Chris, there isn't anything super awesome or amazing in any of these boxes. I think it's funny that he would say something like that, because that's the kind of thing I would say, you know, like, you know, it's sort of like, you know, self-sabotage, because that's totally not true. Like, there is some really awesome stuff in these boxes. But I thought I'd send them your way in any case. Hopefully you received all 3 boxes and none of them went missing. Yes, I received all 3. The small box is full of some knickknacks I thought you might like, but nothing is going to blow you away. I don't want to say anything more on here because he's kind of talking about what's in them. So, so I'll go through some of this stuff that he mentioned. So he mentions on here, okay, so he says the front piece to the R-type ship, that's the R9A Arrowhead, is broken off, but it's nothing a little super glue won't fix. I'd do it, but I don't have any super glue. Well, I had some super glue, Josh, so I fixed it. So you see, I guess that's the R9A Arrowhead. Well, I don't know why the top is black. I'm only saying that because I don't know if like maybe there's like subsequent versions of R-type. Like I've never played any R-type after like the 3rd one. So maybe there were like other, you know, sister ships or something. But anyway, that one's pretty cool. And so this whole piece was broken off. But as Josh said, it was nothing that a single drop of super glue wouldn't fix. So thanks, Josh. That's pretty cool. I'll put that up on the shelf later. And then, okay, well, before we get to the other stuff we talked about in the letter, so I think someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe these originally, oh yeah. These came with candy in them, but I guess Josh ate it, which is fine. But so we got these 3 mushrooms. We got a red one, we got a green one, and we got a blue one. And they came with, I guess, sour candy in them. Yeah, blue raspberry sours, apple sours, etc. But those are just pretty cool. I don't know, maybe I could keep something in them. I don't even know how to get it open. I'll figure it out later. But yeah, so those are pretty neat. What else we got here? Oh yeah, because he mentioned this. P.S. He says, yeah. P.S. I think you like runts. And yes, I misspelled runts because there's a crossed out word. So I don't know if I ever mentioned this before. Did I ever mention this? I guess I must have. So I got these 2 movie theater sized boxes of runts. So when I was like 11 years old, when I moved back to my mom's house, there was a shopping center near where we lived. That shopping center had the video rental place we went to. It had the Safeway where we shopped for groceries, and it had Long's Drugs, which I think if you don't live on the West Coast, you may not have ever heard of Long's Drugs, but Long's Drugs ended up getting bought out by CVS anyways. But it was kind of it was a good drugstore that had like a really nice toy aisle. that had like good quality toys. Like they would have like micro machines and stuff like that there. I mentioned in the Halloween episode that this local store, the drugstore, always had an entire aisle of Halloween decorations. That was this Long's Drugs. They sold Nintendo games at Long's, but they had these like 25-cent vending machines by the front registers, and one of them had runts in it, and that's how I got into runts. Anytime I went to Long's Drugs, if I had a quarter, like boom, I was getting runts. So yeah, I like runts very much, Josh. So and they tie back into my childhood. So thank you for that. And then we got, so I don't know the history of something like this. It says Castlevania Dracula X Chronicles, which was a PSP release. So I don't know if this was like a pre-order item, perhaps, but we got like a little plastic, like pixelated Simon from what, like at least to me, that looks like that artwork looks like that's from Castlevania 2. But I wouldn't swear to it. Like the background looks more like Castlevania 1, but the figure itself looks more like Simon from Castlevania 2. So, so yeah, that's pretty neat. And then this was a thing. It's funny, I didn't know this was a thing. And then my friend who goes by the Twitter handle Video Game Obsession posted a picture of this. He has two of these, I guess, on Twitter. Same thing. I don't really know the history of these. I don't know if these were a pre-order bonus or it's just something you could buy at the store. This is for the 30th anniversary of Super Mario Brothers. And, oh, I guess it's for Super Mario Maker. So again, I don't know if this was a pre-order bonus or something you could buy, but how appropriate for the Christmas episode. It's a Super Mario Maker snow globe, and it's double-sided. It's got some stuff on the bottom there. What is that? Coins, I guess? Yeah, I don't know. But really neat. I might put this downstairs with our Christmas display, actually. And oh, so we got some Toys R Us swag. So you might remember Josh sent a package in a while back, and one of the things, or some of the things included with that, were like Toys R Us stuff, because Josh used to work at Toys R Us before they unfortunately closed. So we got like there was like a little stack of shelf tags, and then we got the Tetris 2, like the paper slip that you would take out of the blue sleeve if you were going to buy a game. It was a Tetris 2 for the NES slip. So this is like more Toys R Us stuff. And he says in here, the Toys R Us pins are old, is all he says. So obviously I don't know how old or anything, but who doesn't remember, remember the commercials, I don't want to grow up, I'm a Toys R Us kid. So this pin, if it focuses, I want to be a Toys R Us kid. It's like one of these, you can pin it onto your jacket or backpack or whatever. And then this one is like an enamel pin. And you see it's got like a cloud, and then it's got Jeffrey in a plane hanging down. Is it focusing? So I'm saying I don't know the history of these. I don't know how you would get these, or, but they're really neat, Josh. So I appreciate you sharing them with me. And then here is a Toys R Us exclusive Lego set. And yeah, it's of Jeffrey the giraffe with a couple of kids. I didn't even know this was a thing that existed. So that's pretty awesome. I'm still bummed out that Toys R Us is gone. But I mean, obviously Toys R Us closing cost Josh's job, so he has a lot more right to be bummed out than I do. But so thanks for that stuff, Josh. That's pretty neat. And then he mentions in here the Star Trek figure I picked up at a comic convention over the summer. He was only $6, so feel free to open him or pitch him or whatever. I just know you like the episode, but probably have no attachment to the character. And yeah, so it's a Star Trek The Next Generation character here. And this is Captain Dathon. Maybe you can get close and you can see. I don't know how many of you guys out there are Star Trek The Next Generation aficionados. But this is from an episode called Darmok, which I don't think it says anywhere on. Oh, no, it doesn't. It doesn't mention the name of the episode on here anywhere, which is kind of weird. But the episode is called Darmok, and it's my absolute favorite episode. Like I've got maybe a top 5 or whatever, but Darmok's my absolute favorite episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. and you know, sort of Captain Picard and Captain Dathan were like the two sort of main characters of that episode. So I mean, I'm absolutely not going to pitch this. I'm not going to open it either. I think I'm going to hang it on the wall down in the basement. But I think this is really cool, Josh. So so thank you. And then speaking of Star Trek: The Next Generation, we got. Let me make sure. Yeah. So we got Star Trek: The Next Generation, the magazine, which I didn't know this was a thing. And I don't know if this is like issue. Oh yeah, volume number 1, 87-88 season. And yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to thumb through it too much. Oh, it's got a poster in it, but we'd have to undo the staples to get it out. But then this is kind of cool. Do you guys remember some of these other magazines too? So I guess this must be the same publisher. But you remember Fangoria? I used to see that on the newsstands. I'd flip through that. You know, that was like a horror movie magazine. And then Starlog, which was just like a sort of a space sci-fi magazine. So that's pretty cool. This is a cool magazine. They got a thing about Wesley Crusher in here. I never got the hate for Wesley, you know. Yeah. I mean, just another character on the show. I mean, I don't know. This is pretty neat, man. I'm looking forward to flipping through that as well. And then lastly, in this box, because again, we got 3 boxes from Josh. We got by the editors of Consumer Guide, which I don't. Was that like a competitor for Consumer Reports? I don't know. Hot tips for the coolest Nintendo games. So this is probably the kind of thing that you would have bought like on the newsstand, maybe at the drugstore, maybe it would be like an impulse item. And, you know, obviously this was put out by whoever made this magazine, Consumer Guide, assuming that was a magazine. But what surprises me about this, you know, just looking at the outside, you probably would think, oh yeah, this is probably just going to be some cheapo magazine. It only cost $5 back in the day. But if you open it up, like this is on super high quality paper. Like the pages are almost, well, they're not almost as thick as the cover, but really thick, glossy paper. All of the screenshots are in full color, and they're really nice quality screenshots. So I'm just pretty surprised that you know, this is the kind of stuff you would expect maybe if like EGM or something put out something like this. But for something like Consumer Guide, whoever that is, to come out with something and have it be this nice is really surprising. When there's even some Game Boy coverage in the back. Remember Game Boy Batman? That's one of my favorites. Castlevania: The Adventure, The Amazing Spider-Man, Super Mario Land. That's pretty cool. So yeah, that's pretty cool, Josh. Thanks. And then, oh god, these are so heavy. So I don't know if we can just show these together. So I got these boxes. I had a hard time even carrying these to my car because they were so heavy. But let me just get them all out of the boxes first. Gosh. So I don't know if Josh just wanted to get out of the business of collecting retro gamer mags, but Josh sent me all of these retro gamer magazines. This looks like to be maybe like 2 years worth. So that's really awesome. I don't think we really have time to go over them individually. Just full disclosure, I'm already going to have a lot of these, cause I do collect retro gamer. So, you know, I'm going to go through and I'll use this stack to fill all the holes in my library. And then assuming that Josh is okay with it, I would love to be able to just do a giveaway and send some of these out to some of you guys. So, but I mean, for anybody that doesn't read Retro Gamer, at least in my opinion, it's a really good magazine. It's not cheap. And I think the price went up recently. I think I pay over $15 an issue for Retro Gamer. I don't subscribe to it just because this is kind of a pricey magazine, and I want to keep them in good shape, and I don't really want them going through the mail. So I just pick it up every month at the video game store. But like, you know, here, the making of Golden Axe. You know, I mean, certainly I could have used that when I did my Golden Axe episode, but I think, like, I don't see when this was, but I think this came out after I made that issue. Gaming's Biggest Disasters, and it has the Power Glove on it. What do we got here? Lemmings. Oh, look at that. The greatest NES games. And this is, I should mention, for anybody that's not familiar with this magazine, this is a British publication. So the fact that they would talk about NES games at all is kind of a big deal, because the NES certainly was not a big deal there. That's crazy. Is this really $4.99 in the UK, and we have to pay way more than it for that? I mean, I know that, you know, £1 is worth a lot more than $1, but still $4.99, and I'm paying like $17. That doesn't seem like a good whatever rate. I can't think of the word right now. Look at that, how the PlayStation changed gaming. Some of these I definitely recognize as not having. Elite 30-year special. 150 greatest games ever. See, I'm always curious to read stuff like that, because the British, you know, they have a much different history with gaming. You know, home computers were very popular, like 8-bit computers were very popular there in the 80s and early 90s. So a top 150 list from the UK is going to look a lot different than a top 50 list here. And so then you can kind of get exposed to some new games you didn't know about, like on the Commodore 64 or the Amiga. Star Wars, all-time greatest BBC micro games, 30 greatest Super Mario moments. Oh, look at that. Arcade Perfect, the SNK Neo Geo. That's cool. People keep telling me I need to do a, ColecoVision. People keep telling me I need to do a launch of the Neo Geo episode. I hope to do that someday. Space Harrier, that's just cool. That's a cool cover art. 25th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog. The Road Trip of a Lifetime, Outrun. Nintendo's Midas Touch with the Nintendo 64. 30 Years of Entertainment, the story behind Nintendo's world-conquering console, the NES. 20 Years of Quake. I've still never really played that much Quake. I downloaded Quake because I needed to show a little bit of Quake footage in the launch of the Dreamcast episode, but I haven't really played it outside of that, but I'd like to. This would be interesting. Sega's Big Gamble. Did 2 add-on peripherals tarnish the reputation of Sega's 16-bit Mega Drive? Yes, it most certainly did. Yeah, here, Wipeout. Ooh. Street Fighter 2. I feel like this is a recent issue. I don't know what happened, Josh. You just fell out of love with Retro Gamer? But thanks, man. I mean, I appreciate it. Ooh, and what's this? 100%. Oh, from the makers of Retro Gamer, Nintendo Archives. So I don't know what... So sometimes Retro Gamer does stuff like this, where they'll make sort of these compendium books, just because they'll still be available on the newsstand, but they'll charge a little bit more for them. And it's just sort of, they'll take a bunch of articles out of past issues and, you know, group them together logically by like talking about Nintendo systems, which is pretty cool. Top 25 Super Nintendo games. I don't know how much different that would look than a North American top Super Nintendo games list. But yeah, anyway, wow. Thanks, Josh. Thanks a lot. And thanks to everybody else that sent something in. I mean, that was like beyond the beyond compared to last year. And, you know, as I always say, it's really not necessary for you guys to send stuff into the show. But, you know, that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. It's very humbling that this many people would send this much stuff into the show. I mean, that's just awesome. So, so yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark. So that's a good time to end it, I guess. So like I said, today's Thursday. I'm going to try to do the Christmas live stream tomorrow night, Friday. I just can't see how in the world I would have this episode out before I do that. So you guys probably won't see this episode, maybe until this weekend. I'm going out of town on Saturday, so even if I have to work a couple of late nights, I have to get this edited up before I leave. So I'll do that. So yeah, as I said, I did that little update video before. My goal is to do more flashbacks in the new year, or maybe even release one before the new year starts. I got the next 2 weeks off from work, so I'll have plenty of time at home to hang out and play video games and work on the show. I still want to get the podcast off the ground too. So we'll see if we can get that done. But that's going to do it, I guess, for this episode of CGQ Plus. A very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all of you and your families. And I will see you guys again very soon. Thanks again very much to all of you.
Now he's only doing hiding. Uh-oh, where'd the other home go? I don't know. Santa lost a home. Now Santa's been